to the Ministry Company podcast. You're listening to Pastor Pavlo City from the Ministry Company Church in London, Ontario, Canada. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at the Ministry Company.
So if you can read from verse 6 all the way to verse 13, or Pastor Diana, whoever has the ESV. From 6 to 13. Because I can read too, but you don't want me to read this.
So Joada the son of Paseah and Meshullam the son of Besodiah repaired the gate of Yeshana. They laid its beams and set its doors, its bolts, and its bars. And next to them repaired Milotia the Gibeonite and Jadon the Meronothite, the men of Gibeon and of Mizpah, the seat of the governor of the province beyond the river. Next to them Uzziel the son of Harhiah, goldsmiths repaired. Next to him, Hananiah, one of the perfumers, repaired, and they restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. Next to them, Rephaiah, the son of Hur, ruler of half the district of Jerusalem, repaired. Next to them, Jediah, the son of Harumaph, repaired opposite his house. And next to him, Hattush, the son of Hashabniah, repaired. Malchijah, the son of Haram, and Hashub, the son of Pahath-Moab, repaired another section and the tower of the ovens. Next to them, Shallum the son of Halohesh, ruler of half the district of Jerusalem, repaired, he and his daughters. Hanun and the inhabitants of Zanoah repaired the valley gate. They rebuilt it and set its doors, its bolts, and its bars, and repaired 1,000 cubits of the wall as far as the dung gate.
Yeah, up to there. So, when we started studying Book of Nehemiah, and just even before the Bible study, I was talking to Mike that chapter 3 is going to be one of those really heavy chapters because there's a lot of names, and a lot of those names mean a lot of things. And as well as I'm seeing that those names will be representing the people who will be walking through the doors of this church. So we will be facing with what God is going to be doing, or bringing the people who God already done those things in their life. So this is more than just like a Bible study, but more as a prophetic release what is going to happen over the house. So Joada means Yahweh knows, and he was the fourth high priest after captivity. Now he is the son of Pesach, that means passing over or halting, like hesitant. And we see the next name, it's Meshullam. This is the second Meshullam, that means befriended, and he was the son of Besodeh, that means the counsel of God. So we see that even though the fathers of the sons, some of the fathers meant good name, some of the fathers meant bad name, but we see that there is redemption in the son's life over the father, or there is redemption in the father's life, but the son kind of stepped away. So we see on that Joada, he is Yahweh knows, and Pasach is the passing over or hesitant. So God, maybe the father was hesitant, but the son already kind of got to the point. His name represented that God knows the things. Meshullam is the befriended, but the father of him his name meant counsel of the Lord. So they rebuilt the gate of Yeshma. So and it's kind of interesting that it's they called it gate of Yeshma, or the old gate, or the corner gate, which meant actually the old beginning renewed. The old beginning renewed. So the old being renewed spiritually by the Lord. This is what I wrote. Next to them, so I will touch on the gates a little bit later, but next to them we can see that there is Milotia the Gibeonite, and his name means Milotia, deliverance of the Lord. So there will be people who will be delivered from the Lord. And then next to him is Jadon the Meronite. Meronite means thankful. As well, God will judge. So thankful because of God's judgment, so God's justice. Now, Milotia and Jadon, they were from Gibeon and from Mitzpah. So Gibeon means, or that area, it's a hill. It's an area that is lifted up. So a deliverance of the Lord comes to a man who is lifted up by the Lord. And the Mizpah, it's a watchtower, a place of God's witness. So thankful, again, Jadon means thankful. God will judge, or God gives justice and makes him as a witness, as that watchtower in a place of God's witness. Verse 8, we turn into few interesting names. Uzziel, and I think there is Uzziel, yeah. So Uzziel, the son of Harniah. Now he is a goldsmith. So again, looking at that, we could look at, that's like, a goldsmith should not be working as a bricklayer, but in God's work, there is not really, like the work, everybody does the work. It's not like, okay, well, I'm goldsmith, so I'm not going to do this, but they still did it. So Uzziel means strength and power, and God is mighty. He was a son of Harniah, that meant heat and anger of the Lord. So even though Harniah was burning, and we can compose both names, as means the burning with passion for the Lord. Now they worked together by this man by name Hananiah, and he was a perfumer. His name means grace and mercy, a gift of the Lord. Grace and mercy, the gift of the Lord. So we see how together the Lord is building this character that is burning with passion for the Lord, but at the same time with grace and mercy. And they rebuilt a broad wall, and that broad wall, it was a defensive structure against the things from the enemy, and it was 7 meters thick. So think now, put together this character of this person. I know there's 3 names represented, but this is just like when they come on those groups, I'm seeing like a one person, and it's a person who is burning with passion for the Lord, with grace and mercy. That it's a defense in the house. That grace and mercy, it actually comes because again, if we are just burning with the passion for the Lord, we will have lots of disciples, like the Apostle Peter's in the house. The guys who are so passionate and they will do anything for the Lord. They will chop ears. But then on the other hand, like the Lord wants to have those Hananiah, who is the grace and mercy. So that would be representation of John the Beloved, no? So they rebuilt the broad wall. Verse 9 to 12. So here, again, a few extra names. Repaniah means medicine or refreshment of the Lord, or Yahweh has healed and restored. Now he is a son of Hur, and Hur, he is the ruler of Jerusalem. Now Jerusalem was divided in 2 sections. That's why we hear about Hur, the ruler, and Pahat, the other ruler, the Moabites. So we have two rulers of Jerusalem. The first one, Hur, it meant he was the father of Rephaniah, who, again, going back, Rephaniah, medicine or refreshment of the Lord. Yahweh has healed and restored. He is the son of liberty and whiteness, so Hur. And it's interesting, the other area where we find this name Hur. Probably many more, but at least in my memory came Aaron and Hur. They were lifting up Moses' arms when when Joshua was fighting with the Amalekites. And it's kind of interesting. Aaron means exalted and strong, and now Hur is liberty. So the strength of the Lord and liberty that comes through the Lord is lifting up Moses' hand, who was the most meekest, and Moses means more like a meek and compassionate person, and giving strength to Joshua to overcome. So the next people, they repaired not where their house, but across their house, and that's really important because Jediah, I think that's how you read, Jediah means Jehovah knows, the hand of the Lord, and confessing to the Lord. So basically, there will be this moment of opening up and being vulnerable to the Lord. Why? Because the things what was happening in Jediah, like his dad, Meriphath, means this destruction. And I kind of call this combination of the two names from despair to renewal. They repaired across their house from despair to renewal. Because the son represents Jehovah knows, because I'm confessing to him, because the father brought the destruction. So, we are going to the next, guys. If you have a question, you can stop me anytime, but there's Hattush, the son of Hashbeniah, repaired. Next to them, Hattush, the son of Hashbeniah. And Hattush means forsaking sin, or other significance of that name means justified by God. And he is a son of Hashbeniah, that means the estimation of the Lord. So God esteems, God values, and justifies. Then we see verse 11, Malchiah, the son of Harim, and Hashab, the son of Pahath Moab. Those are really interesting names because Mashiach means the Yahweh is king. My king is Jehovah. And he is the son of Harim. Harim means dedicated to God. So the reestablishment of kingship of Yahweh by our dedication to him. So not only dedicating ourselves as just kids and servants, but actually dedicating our life to the kingship of the Lord. And Hashub, the son of Pahath, Hashub means considerate, and Pahath, the Moabite, actually means from my father. And it's kind of interesting because these guys are restoring the Tower of Ovens. And the Tower of Ovens, basically there were ovens where they would bake bread, the fresh bread. And it's not a coincidence that a Moabite is restoring the place of the ovens that bake bread, because this kind of representation of Naomi, the Ruth the Moabite that came with Naomi to Bethlehem, the house of bread. So we can see a place of baking fresh bread leads to legacy of Naomi and Ruth the Moabite. Placed next to the corner tower or the old tower. So we see that even though the previous tower is the old tower, the tower of renewing our spirituality. Again, I just learned this past week the difference between new and renewed. Renewed, it doesn't have to be brand new from the scratch, but it's actually made new. So a lot of us probably heard about, this part when Jesus talks about, nobody pours a new wine into the old wineskins, but the new wine is poured into new wineskins. And for some reason, I always thought it's like, man, they make new wineskins for every new batch of wine. But then I was like, but that would not be feasible. Like, think about it. Like, you have to kill so many goats to make all those wineskins. It's like, man, Jewish people like to drink wine. So I don't think you could be able to kill that many goats. So more and more, and here in Apostle Damon, and I already kind of knew that part, but more on that the wineskins, after they had the wine, if you don't let them to dry out, you can renew them to make them again new. But the way how they do it, they would pour oil inside and leave it for some time, and then they would be putting oil on outside and kind of molding in it and put it by the heat of the fire, so that oil and fire just mixes and makes it more make it more elastic, that wineskin, basically making it new. So even brand spanking new wineskins will still have to go through that process, because you still have to have that elasticity. So that's kind of interesting that this Tower of Almonds, it's right beside the Tower of that renewal. And so next, guys, right beside him there is Shalom, the son of Halohesh. He is the district ruler of Jerusalem. Now he repairs with his daughters, not with his sons, but with his daughters. And Shalom means retribution, or the other way to say is to make whole or complete, perfect and agreeable, perfect and agreeable. And Halohesh, it kind of did not sound very good, because now he is a redeemer of his father's old life, or the dark life. So Halohesh means enchanter, sorcerer, whisperer, exorcist. And the way how I call this combination of the two names is from the dark past to complete retribution into the future of light. Any questions? All good? I know, lots of names, lots of information. But verse 13. And today I started writing from verse 13, and I had to stop myself because I only got to a whole page, and I was like, I don't want to write any farther, because just in case I go way too long. We see that there's Hanun and the inhabitants of Zanoah repair the valley gate. And I'll just gonna explain this, and then I'm gonna go into the gates. So Hanun means gracious, merciful, and favored. Gracious, merciful, and favored. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's a lot of that grace and mercy on the names. Keeps going. And I believe even in this season, as we finally, no more emergency act, no more frozen accounts. I only heard from the people that I know, only one person got frozen account, and that was just for posting some stuff on the internet. A worker that works for Pasha, and he is actually deaf. His account got frozen. But now they released the funds. So I can see that God is actually calling us into that to be gracious, to be merciful, to not to have favors, but show the favor of God over those people that need that. He is a son of Zanoah, and not the son of Zanoah. He is the inhabitant of Zanoah. And that place, Zanoah, it's well known. Right now, it's kind of laying that place of Zanoah. It's actually lays right now in ruins currently. But back in the day, when the name of this people actually came because of that place, it was a place of the finest wheat. So it was a place of the finest wheat, so the best bread, the best, all that stuff. So graciousness, mercy, and favor of God, it's like the finest wheat. Now, they're repairing the Valley Gate. The Valley Gate, it means a place of humility, a place of trial. And while I was writing, it kind of came to me this, a place of taking up the cross. The reason there is 3 valleys that come together where that Valley Gate is. And as you're going to hear about that, you will see why. A place of humility, trial, and taking up the cross. So we talked about 3 gates. And the first gate, it was on verse... it was verse 1, the sheep gate. And then we see verse 3, the fish gate. And now verse 13, the Valley Gate. The sheep gate, and I would kind of look at this as 3 seasons of Christian life, or 3 dispensations, or 3 life applications in spiritual life. So we have the sheep gate, and I already touched on that it's like representation of our salvation, because He's our shepherd. And they are rebuilding the sheep gate, that only the shepherd walks through the door, and the thief would just jump over the wall. No, only the sheep recognize the shepherd's voice and they follow him. So God, as we rebuild that sheep gate, it's rebuilding the understanding of our salvation, rebuilding the hearing of His voice, rebuilding the trusting on His provision. And again, I think for the most part, we don't have a problem on understanding that His provision in our material stuff. I know maybe you will disagree, but at least in I'm gonna be vulnerable, but at least for me, I have no problem to understand that He provides for me financially, because I've seen it. But sometimes because we are so much in how to say, we heard so much about it, we only just relate, He is my provider in the financial, where His primarily provision is on the spiritual level, on emotional level. So it's like we only look that His provision mostly touches our body, but He actually touches our soul and our spirit. And number 1, it would be spirit. Number 2 would be our soul, our emotions, what is soul? It's our feelings. That's why sometimes, you will hear a message from a pulpit, and will be more addressed to the soul, to the feelings of the people. And people might like it, people might not like it. People might say, "Oh, man, I left with such a peace in my soul." To which, not always it's bad, but where God wants to focus more is in the spirit part. So when you're living agitated in your spirit, not always that agitation is something bad. It's just He agitated in your spirit, and you're like, okay, I might have to fix a few things. So that's where we have the sheep gate. That's the first part. the first gate that is rebuilt. And it's kind of interesting that that's actually how it goes here in Nehemiah. Why he didn't start with the other gates, but he actually starts writing, this is the first gate. The second, the fish gate, and those who've been here, you heard this, but I want to just repeat again for a sake, just to tie it in. The fish gate, it represents, the first thing what comes to me is you're no longer going to be a fisherman of fish, but you're going to be a fisherman of men. So Peter, no longer you're going to call yourself, I'm a dirty person, I cannot even speak one straight word. Because honestly, that's what Peter was. Because if you remember when all that miracle of catching the fish happens, Peter, the first thing he recognizes, man, like I'm cursing quite a bit. It's like, well, he's a fisherman, Even we have the saying, like swearing like a fisherman. So it's like, that's how it was Peter. But here, what we see, the fish gate represents our calling, because Jesus calls them. Jesus calls Peter, John, James, and Andrew from that moment. Like, you need to realize those four guys, first four disciples of Jesus, they start following him after that miracle in their life. Even though Andrew already kind of was following Jesus still from the John's baptism, but now they're all four following. So, and then we have the Valley Gate, and again, there's a few different representation of this Valley Gate, but the way how I call it is a gate of being a new creature or a gate of a new life. So, and it was interesting as I was reading, and the Lord just, when you hear something about Bible and says valley, what's the first thing what comes to you? Psalm 23. The valley of shadow of death. And we always look at the shadow of death as something negative. Now think about when we are going through the valley of shadow of death, but we need to die to ourselves. So by dying to myself, I am born where? In Him, into my new self. And that's what Apostle Paul says, like you are in Christ, you are a new creature. The old things has passed, the old things has died, the new things were born. So that's kind of the first thing. So in Jerusalem there's 3 valleys, and they all come to that valley gate. There's a few things with this valley gate. So there is the Tyropean Valley. And this valley was connecting the royal place where the king lived and the temple. So on one end of this valley, or on the hill, was the royal place, the royal palace, and then the other side of that valley was the temple of the Lord. And so again, connecting between God chooses us as a royal priesthood. Not just any priesthood, but royal priesthood. And then the second valley that comes, so think about those 3 valleys somehow connect and they come to this gate, and that's the valley gate. It's the Kidron, that's how we would say, Kidron Valley. And this one is really interesting. So the Kidron Valley is between the Temple Mount and the Olive Mount, or the Mount Olive. Curious Stanford. We love him. So, the Kidron Valley between the Temple Mount and Mount Olive, or Olive Mount. For those who love the end times and love to study on the end times, that's actually really significant valley. In Revelation, that's actually where Jesus is descending in Jerusalem, and he is standing in one foot on the Mount Olive and the other foot in the in the Temple Mount. Yeah. So a valley of decision, a place of final judgment. In the second coming, it's a very important place. In that valley, we find a few interesting things. There is a tomb. There is somebody buried in that valley, and his name is Absalom. So Absaloms get buried on that valley. So Absalom, if you guys remember, was a son of King David, and he was kind of orphan spirit son who saw competition in his father, and he was fighting against his father. He dies really, really, really dramatically. He had a long hair. He probably used a lot of products from, what's that, Monet? You can laugh. It's not a sin. And as he is running away, I think, from this David's soldiers, and he gets caught on tree branches and kind of dies that way. Really sad, the way how he dies. And another thing, at the foot of that valley, at the Mount Olive, what's located is the Garden of Gethsemane. At the edge of Kidron Valley. And there is a Kidron Creek as well that's running. The other valleys don't have creeks, they don't have water, but this valley has a creek that has a water. So in the Book of Revelation, there is 4 things what is happening in this valley. The return of Elijah has been prophesied that is going to be on that valley. And again, we see that whatever represents this, the spirit of Elijah was over John the Baptist and all that stuff. And then we see arrival of Messiah. This is in the prophets. So the return of Elijah and the arrival of Messiah, this is still in the Old Testament prophets. Book of Revelation talks about the war with Gog and Magog. Or I think, no, it's Daniel, no? Gog and Magog. I know it's one of those apocalyptic books, either on Daniel or Ezekiel even. Gog and Magog. And the judgment day is going to be happening on the same valley, the Kidron Valley. And then, it's interesting, the third valley that connects to that gate is the Henon Valley. And this one is really, really, really nasty one. It's the hill of evil counsel, the abode of condemned souls. Abode? Huh? Abode? Not about, abode. A-B-O-D-E. I don't even know what that means. I just wrote it. A dwelling? Yeah. Of condemned souls. Literally, hell. So it's like, okay. The 3 different valleys, no? And what's interesting, when these valleys come to the valley gate, and that valley gate, there is a few different things. It actually terminates near the pool of Siloam. So in Jerusalem, as you cross that gate, in Jerusalem, it's the pool of Siloam. And as you remember, pool of Siloam, that's John chapter 9, I believe, where Jesus spits and puts the mud on the eyes of the blind guy, who actually was blind from the birth. And everybody asks, who sinned? No, is it the parents? Is the kid? The kid? Well, he was an old guy. And Jesus tells him, go wash yourself on the pool of Siloam. And when he goes and washes, or Siloam, depends how you put the pronunciation. I think more Jewish way would be Siloam, and English is Siloam. And that pool, it actually means the pool of apostleship, or a pool of sent one. So what happened to the blind man, when he starts seeing, he actually starts testifying about Jesus Christ. So that's kind of gives, opens up our spiritual eyes to be testifying. And they are rebuilding, they repaired and rebuilding and setting doors as far as Dung Gate. And Dung Gate, it's a place of garbage cleaning. Before entering the Temple Mount, people would clean themselves and throw all the garbage. And even from Jerusalem, they would just bring the garbage. So there was a dump by the Dung Gate. That's kind of where it ends. And that's all what I got until today. I think there's a lot of information to kind of look at that. It's beautiful to see how this restoration is happening. You know, the foundation, sheep gate, the salvation. The next step, it's finding the calling. What's my purpose? What's my destiny in the body of believers? And the third one is, you know, what Jesus did in the Garden of Gethsemane. He's taking the cup and he's carrying it to the cross. He is drinking the cup of iniquity for you and I. He is taking that cross. He's not refusing the cross. And even Jesus talks to his disciples. He says, whoever wants to follow me, take up your cross and follow me. You know, you need to deny to yourself and just take your cross, take my cross, take my burden, and just follow me and follow what I have. And again, as soon as we hear something like that, it doesn't come as a positive, because when we look at the cross, we always think it's like, man, this is going to be heavy, this is going to be really bad, this is going to be hurtful, I'm going to be suffering and all that stuff. To which, again, Apostle Paul says, I counted all suffering, I counted for joy. So even in the suffering, we can still find the joy. And again, we can look at that as like, okay, so if you become a Christian, then now you're going to be starting living a life of suffering, and there's going to be limitation to the things what you can or you cannot do, which is completely opposite. It's completely opposite, because even when we look at Jesus as he goes to the cross, he is not complaining about it. We can even read Apostle Paul writes about him, how he was waiting for that day to do that. He was like, for that reason the Father sent me. Like, I'm accomplishing my mission. Like, of course, physically it was hard. But spiritually he was counting as a joy. Because he was looking at us right now sitting on a Wednesday, I don't know what's today, 23rd of February, and he was going to the cross just because we're going to be sitting today here. Or whoever's going to be watching or listening the podcast. That's why he did it. That's why we do it. No, like for me, even when we went to ministry, Pastor Diana on Sunday, the Lord was showing in a vision what is going to be happening there, and that's why, you know, when the Lord shows you in a vision, you come and you preach differently because you already know what is going to happen. And when the Lord shows you, you have that boldness to reveal the message. So think about when Jesus is preaching, when Jesus is releasing any word, he is already seeing. He already seen all those things. Like he was born, but he already seen those things, what is going to be happening. So he was exciting just to see the people's reaction actually come into reality. So those are the kind of my thought on this, and there's more and more rebuilding. There's still, we are only verse 13 from 32. There's still 19 verses to go. I think we're going to go maybe faster, maybe slower. We don't know. But I just believe that the Lord is rebuilding the foundations in this house. This is not a coincidence. Pastor Mike was preaching a few weeks ago on foundations. And I know it's kind of typical on the beginning of the year. Everybody's like, okay, we should be starting this and that and kind of revisiting old wells or something like that. But I strongly believe that the Lord is just rebuilding the foundations. Why? Because for the last 2 years, the foundations has been shaken and been put to the test. And even like what Carlos experienced in the natural, his house foundation cracked and there was water coming in. That only what it showed, because there's something that needed to be redone with the grading, or something needed to be redone, like in the initial building of the foundation needed to be more reinforcement done, or something is settling, or the amount of snow. Like, you know what I mean? Every time when we see that, you have to diagnose what was the source of that, because you don't want that to happen again and again. And even though the church has been vulnerable during these 2 years, I still believe that we have seen the cracks and we fixed them. We filled it up with epoxy, the cracks that needed to be refilled. And again, you know how a lot of people can be saying a lot of negative things coming out of this. For me, I believe that we are coming more stronger than ever. And, you know, he withered what needed to be, you know, like to shake whatever, to clean, huh? No. Sifting. He sifted what needed to be sifted. And what is left, that's what he wants, and that's it. So.
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at The Ministry Company. Or join us in person at 1541 Fanshawe Park Road East, London, Ontario, on Sundays at 12:30 p.m. or Wednesday nights for prayer at 7 p.m.